At the beginning of the year, there's a lot of modeling involved with teaching small groups, and I will teach them the small group activity for about a week when I'm not even working with a small group. So I'll have them each in their groups doing the set activity that I've taught them for that week. Usually I'll put a stop sign up at my group, and they know that they're not allowed to interrupt me for anything that is minor. If they need to use the restroom, the kids give me their restroom signal, and I can see that from where I am, and I can give them a nod and they can go. I'm okay with the noise level. The kids are supposed to be talking through problems with each other. So the noise level is fine for me as long as it doesn't get too out of hand. But small group time is a noisy time, and that's fine with me. As you can see, our kids are sitting on the floor, they've moved around the room, and I'm fine with all of that. I really utilize a lot of videos during small group time for the speaking and listening standards. We use Front Row a lot for small groups because Front Row is very similar to News ELA in that they have articles at various reading levels, so it's all individualized for the kids, as well as writing assignments through Front Row. Also with 5th grade having to take the science state tests, my kids do science review from 4th grade a lot during small groups because there's no other time really to get to that. I value small groups very highly. It's one of my favorite parts of the day because I feel like I really get to know the kids a lot better during small groups. And one of the things that I added this year was book clubs during small groups. And I find that that's one of the more popular small group activities.
With our math small groups, each station has a job. Each group has a job. So one of their jobs is also with me. And they come prepared with their materials to work with me, and the students know based on our classroom management skills that if they're off task they'll have consequences, but they're all little teachers and they follow their DII steps from the direct instruction in their small group. When they hear the timer, they transition to the next one. If they finish early, they're allowed to go ahead as long as their entire group is ready to move on. They have a PowerPoint, and I put it on the document camera, and it has a list of the rotations that they will be running through, and the rotations move smoothly if the group is working together and they finish completely together. We have a restroom signal, so they hold up restroom and I say, okay, here we go. If they have a question, they can either wait until they hear the timer to come talk to me between the transition, or they can give me a post-it note on my desk. My small groups are loud. We get noisy in here. I don't mind the noise. I want them talking. I want them discussing and collaborating with each other. I find it's the most efficient way to differentiate instruction. If we were good with our DII lesson and I felt comfortable and they felt comfortable with it, we'll move on to small groups the next day. If we need another day of direct instruction, we will. If we didn't finish the lesson or the lesson didn't go as planned, small groups will be pushed back, and sometimes small groups last a day or small groups will last 2 days. Our motto is, if you give a man a fish, you'll feed him for a day. If you teach a man a fish, you'll feed him for a lifetime. So they know, don't give each other answers because you're not helping your group members succeed. The independent work that the students are doing is still standards based, or it's based on the essential question. So each group is working on the same skill that I'm working with on the back table.
We start with, how does read to self look? What does it look like when we're reading to ourselves? What does it sound like? So we start with something as simple as just a couple of minutes. Can we all be super focused and do this right for 2 or 3 minutes? And we don't move on until we've done that. I like to have a timer up in my classroom during this session. Sometimes I think for kids time goes by so slowly, and I think a lot of times they feel that it's never going to end. So I put a timer up so they know exactly how much time they have left to be focused. If they see 5 minutes, it's a lot easier to think in your mind, okay, I can do 5 minutes. I also use the timer. When the timer rings, we just move quickly to the carpet. And when we're at the carpet, when we're learning and when we're training for small groups, we talk about it as a class and we say, what did we do really well today? What did we do that made our transitions really quick? And what do we need to do next time to make our transitions more smooth? So getting the kids' input and having them help out in the decision making gets them to buy in. I have captains for each of my groups, so their job is to collect and pass out papers. They are to help keep the people in their group focused. We also have door monitors, we have line leaders. I basically believe that all kids should have a job, and I have kids that are really responsible. They may have 10 jobs. Because I really believe that the kids should run the classroom, not the teacher. So when we talk about small groups at the beginning of the year, we talk about why it's important. And it's the same when I teach them how to read to self. We don't just, this is what we do, this is what it looks like. We talk about why do we do it. I love small groups, and I think they're really beneficial to kids because you're able to differentiate for every single child. The way I do my small groups is different. I don't have kids rotating around. I make a set schedule for each child for the entire week. And we stay that way for several weeks, sometimes even up to a quarter. And then when we reassess, we do our STAR testing, we do our dibbles, then I change the groups.
It does sometimes get loud, especially if they're doing an activity which they need to move around the room. We have word detective activities where they are moving around the room, but they're trained in the very beginning to use an inside voice. So as you walk around, you can see that most kids are using their quiet inside voice. I have a mini stop sign because they know that when I'm working in small group, that they need to either ask an assistant, a parent. I try to have at least 2 adults in the classroom every time we run small groups. So that way they can ask either a friend first or a parent or an aide. Because if they walk into my group, I just simply hold up my stop sign and they know that they have to be redirected. I think small groups are so important because of the differentiated instruction where we can target their specific needs. To me, I think that's the biggest thing. Those that need more remedial skills, we get to target that during that time. The easier readers, to help them with fluency so that they're not overwhelmed in the whole group. And also with the higher group, I get to push them further and get to see how they can tear stories apart, and it's really a lot of fun.